Alright, so let's do a walk around of this 2017 KTM 690 Enduro R. First thing is, I was riding a BMW F800 GS Adventure, and that bike, while I was capable, I took that down to Utah and rode parts of the BDR down there and things like that. If I'm going to be riding more by myself and doing some other things, I don't want the weight of that bike. So that dry weight of that BMW F800 Adventure was around 472. The dry weight of this 690 is around 315 pounds. So 157 pound difference right there just out of the gate. So I feel better if I do take off riding forest roads and stuff by myself where I can pick it up. Another thing about that BMW with the hard panniers, I felt like I was always loading and taking too much stuff with me. I always try to be prepared and everything like that, but again, by the time everything was loaded down, I don't know what the weight was of that bike. So when I bought this bike in October of 2020, it was pretty well set up. There was already a lowering kit on this bike to lower it 1 inch, because the word out there is that the 690s are tall bikes. The YOSHIMURA pipe was already on the bike. Seat concept seat, there's people that swear by the comfort of the seat concept seats, so that's a plus right there for sure. The VANASCHE fuel filler, the billet fuel filler there, because it's much easier with less fuel spillage with that billet one right there. The TUSK D-Flex handguards were already on the bike. I had run bark busters on the BMW, but these TUSKs have been sturdy, and I don't see any issue with running these TUSK D-Flex handguards. So let's start at the front of the bike. It was pretty well outfitted, when I bought it. But what I've added on here, from MOTOMINDED, the Epic Squadron Pro and S2 combo, BAJA designs LED lights in there, and MOTOMINDED has this all plug and play ready to go. So if I could install it, anybody can install that. It's around 7,300 lumens there on those lights, so great visibility for what I want to see, great visibility for other people to see me. Another thing on the front up here is the giant loop tug strap, and I haven't had to use that yet. I'm sure at some point I will, or somebody else will have to use it to help me, so that's on there just as a precaution. Other things we've got on here, the Adventure SPEC mini fairing. There was a little, just piece of plastic there for a little bit of wind protection on the bike to start with. But this Adventure SPEC mini fairing did a couple things. It gave me a little bit more wind protection. There's not a lot. And it gave a place to mount my Garmin Montana 700i. So this Garmin that's on here is with inReach capability, so satellite messaging. Back in 2015 at the Northwest Overland Rally over in Plain, Washington, we bought one of the original DeLorme inReaches and have used that thing for years and had that thing with us, because a lot of places we go there is no cell signal. So as a precaution, we've got that to be in contact all the time if you can get to some clear sky, and also we use that and we'll send our location to Facebook there, and people can follow where we are. Let's see, the GPR V4 steering stabilizer. I did not have a steering stabilizer on the BMW. A KTM I'd had a couple of bikes before, a KTM 520 EXC. I did have a steering stabilizer and loved having that on there. So I didn't do the install on this. I got that installed. But whether it's rocks, whether it's sand, whether it's just highway speeds and things like that, I like that added stability that gives me. Another item that was added on here, the T-Rex Racing engine crash bars. So I added those on, and that was an install that I did. I had to use a Dremel and Dremel out part of the bash plate there. And the bash plate that is on this bike, I don't know if that is stock or not, but it does give quite a bit of coverage. It's not any kind of metal, it is plastic, but if something's going to bend or break through that plastic, it's going to be a hard hit that I don't know what kind of metal or anything may protect the bottom of the bike from that anyways. So still at the front of the bike up here, you can see the mirrors, and I don't know what brand these mirrors are. They were on the bike when I bought it, and it didn't take long to get used to just looking at the mirrors and basically looking, under my arm there. For that, the first little bit, I was looking like where the mirrors used to be on the BMW, but it didn't take long, and I'm sure they're not that expensive because they're just plastic and things like that. But I've had no issues with those mirrors holding position, or with the times I've gone down, haven't knocked those mirrors off or anything like that. You might also notice this Enduro Pro seat bag, and I got this from Slavin's Racing. I don't like having a big tank bag. I didn't have a tank bag on the BMW. I just don't like having something in my way there, or in the way of my legs if I'm standing up or anything like that. And this gives me a spot to keep a driver's license, a forest pass, I'll put some pliers in there or something like that, and insurance papers and that kind of stuff. So really that's just accessible right there all the time, and it just slips over the seat. Working our way back, I've got a Denali B6 LED extra brake light that is below the license plate. You can't see that from the shot right here. I'll get some shots cut in of that and how bright that is, just giving some extra visibility to cars behind me. Those LEDs are really, really bright on that, and that's again the Denali B6 brake light, and it's got a mount that came on it there to go at the bottom of the license plate. Get a look there at the brightness of the light, and again that was all pre-wired with the set from MOTOMINDED, and the GPS is set to only have power when the key is on, so I'm not going to forget and have that GPS keep running and run down the battery. I do also have a USB charging port here, and that's got a power button there, so we can see that. And that's hot all the time, but I've got the power button on that one, so I can just make sure I remember to turn that off. So we've worked our way back there a bit. The tires that were on the bike are the Continental TKC 80s, and I haven't had any issues with them. Put in a lot of paved miles earlier this year in Texas, and we've done gravel forest roads here in Washington, some just sandy roads there in Texas and things, and I've been happy with those. I do have a pair of MOTO's tires up here on the top of the lockers there that I went ahead and ordered, just because I know with all of the issues this year with production and shipping and everything like that, I've heard people having trouble getting tires when they did need them. So I've got an extra set here ready to go once I'm ready to make the change, and we'll see what the difference is then between the MOTO's and the Continental TKC 80s. The foot pegs on here, I don't know if they are stock or not, and I haven't tried to look it up to see, but they are fairly wide and comfortable, so no issues there with keeping grip or anything with the foot pegs that are on this bike. But again, I don't know if they are stock or they've been added on there by the previous owner. So one difference for sure, the BMW Adventure that I had, I think it had like a 5.5 gallon tank or something like that, at like 55 miles to the gallon. So I had a long range on that bike. The 690s, the stock tank is back here, is about 3.17 gallons. So you might get 120 mile range out of it. And for some of the BDR sections and things like that that I want to do, and the riding that we did in Texas earlier this year, I needed more range. So I did order the auxiliary fuel tank from RADE Garage, and let me do that. So the stock air box was a monster in here, and it restricted a lot of airflow and things like that. So this is about another gallon and a half of fuel. I know you can fit more than 1.5 gallons that I think it claims that it holds. And with their kit, they give you a twin air filter, and they give you 2 air filters as well. So that hasn't been an issue. I've gotten that cleaned. I haven't got it cleaned. I cleaned that here recently after quite a bit of riding, and it's no trouble to change that out. You can go and hook up this auxiliary tank and have a switch with the fuel pump and everything like that. All I did was run it up to the breather here, and what it does, I didn't have to mess with the fuel pump, and this drains first when you're riding, and then it goes out of your tank that comes on the bike. Depending on what you've got loaded in places like that, if I've got my giant loop bag on the back and I want to get fuel, I've got to get my seat off so I can get in here. So I mean, it's a bit of a pain and everything like that, but that extra fuel capacity in here, I've gotten up to 160 miles, I know. So I'm sure I still had fuel, so I'm sure I could get 180 miles probably at least with this added fuel capacity here on the RADE Garage auxiliary fuel tank. Another thing that I did install in here as well is the ABS dongle. So I can disable the ABS when I get out on the forest roads and the dirt and things like that. So depending on how you start the bike, where you have your kill switch, is how your ABS is. So that's another mod that I've done to this bike. Another just a little shiny piece that's been added on here is a Taco Moto Co. Just a little flat billet oil reservoir cover. There have been talk and stories of the oil covers that stick up and breaking off, and then people have trouble getting them off of there. So this one, you can use your hands and get that out of there, no trouble. So for me, I'm not a speed demon. I'm not out there trying to burn up the miles per hour on the highways and things like that. For me, getting where I need to go at highway speeds, this bike is fine. I know there are some people that talk about vibration in these bikes. If it's vibration, then I've gotten used to it and it doesn't really bother me. So the only other thing that I want to do to this bike, otherwise it is set up very well for me, is I've got a rally tower ordered from Nomad ADV, a company in the Netherlands. And what that's going to do, it'll give me some more wind protection for sure, and with the way that tower is set up, it's going to make my speedometer and everything that I need to see there more visible. The one thing about this Adventure Spec mini fairing is it does make some of this stuff less visible for how I have it set up. I can look at miles per hour and things like that on my speedometer, But you know, for the fix for what I needed there for my trip to Texas earlier this year, this mini fairing was great. But for long term and some longer trips that I want to do, that rally tower is going to be an answer for me, I think, for a little bit more protection. So I'm sitting here trying to think of all the things that I've done to this bike, and probably the most obvious to the eye, to the person that's not around this bike all the time, is the color. So I love watching Races to Places, Lyndon Poskett, and the color of his KTMs on the race teams, this MotoX color. And so I did that to this bike, just for it to look different. I'm sure it looks like a lot better rider should be riding this bike than me with that color and the graphics that are on here. But I love it, and it's different. And that was a kit I ordered from Backyard Designs. And you can see it was not put on by a professional. There are some wrinkles and things like that. And over the back part back here, where I have the Giant Loop Coyote bag, I do have some of their clear coating, their stickers for the keep some of the wear and tear off of that graphic kit for when I'm running that Giant Loop Coyote bag. So let me just lay out the Giant Loop Coyote bag. I don't have the dry bags in with all the gear that I carry with me all the time, but I ran this for many miles in Texas with no issues. Doesn't get in my way. And like I say, I don't wear backpacks. I don't like tank bags. This is not in my way. You can see it's been used and well used, and I've gone over on it and it's held up. But like I said, the only issue that I have, and it's not an issue with the bag, it's an issue with how I have things set up, is when I need to put fuel in that auxiliary tank, I loosen the straps. I just pick up on this a little bit, release the seat, and just slide it back. So I'm not having to take everything out, and then I can slide the seat back forward. It's not easy. It's not a fast thing, but it works all right. So I think that's it for the walk around of the 2017 KTM 690 Enduro R. Thanks.